Welcome to the Thriving Farmer Podcast. I'm your host, Michael Kilpatrick. Our mission is to inspire, educate, and celebrate sustainable farming. We believe that you can build a profitable, sustainable farm that gives you true farm freedom. Join us as we talk to farmers, innovators, educators, and entrepreneurs to glean their top takeaways in business and life. Steward is transforming agriculture by equipping regenerative farms and food systems with the capital they need to grow. As a mission-driven financial partner, Steward works closely with agriculture businesses to scale their operations, improve the health of their lands and waters, and bolster farm-to-regional food systems. To date, Steward has provided over $15 million in business loans to fund 75 unique projects backed by more than 1,500 participating lenders. Steward is proud to be a certified B Corp. Seek financing or support a loan campaign at gosteward.com. Hey, Thriving Farmers, Michael here with yet another episode of the Thriving Farmer Podcast. And today my guest is Crystal Stevens, who co-owns Flourish Farmstead and Flourish Folk School with her husband and two children in Godfrey, Illinois. Stevens is an author, folk herbalist, educator, artist, and a regenerative farmer. Stevens has written 3 books published by New Society Publishers. She speaks at conferences and Mother Earth news fairs across the U.S. She has been teaching a resilient living workshop series as well as herbal education for nearly 15 years. Stevens co-founded Tend and Flourish School of Botanicals. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much. It's an honor to be here.
Share with us a little bit about what got you into the whole regenerative herbal world.
Absolutely. So when I was in 2000, my father was diagnosed with end-stage lung cancer. So he was given 6 months to live from the VA hospital. He had the odds stacked against him. So he was a Vietnam veteran exposed to Agent Orange and a number of other chemicals. He was a carpenter who gutted houses and exposed to asbestos. And he also was a chain smoker. So the odds were really against him. Doctors gave him 6 months to live. Our family had been exposed to many people who had chemo and radiation, and we just saw their spirits and their bodies decline with chemo and radiation. So he didn't want to go that route. So our family tried to find any information we could on alternative healing. He started seeing an acupuncturist who did Chinese medicine, and I flipped through the yellow pages trying to find any local health food store in a 30-mile radius and got hired on the spot at a juice bar. And so I was able to bring him 24 ounces of fresh pressed juice every day and get him a discount on supplements and organic produce. And with a combination of the medicinal mushrooms that the acupuncturist was giving him and supplements that I was bringing home, the juicing, switching to organics, he was able to live 5 additional years. And so that kind of just set my path, so to speak. I instantly became in love with the idea of organic gardening and the idea that organic foods can heal you. And so it's sort of set the course of my life.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And actually, you and I met at the Earth Dance Organic Farm a number of years ago.
Yes, we sure did.
Yeah, that's very cool what they're doing out there. So, all right, so that was the beginning. And then you started diving into just what was your education aspect of learning about how herbs and everything works together?
Sure. I read a lot of the Rosemary Gladstar books. I took the program for the Australasian College of Herbal Studies out of Lake Oswego, Oregon. And did some distance learning with them. They changed names to, I believe, the American College of Health Sciences, still ACHS, and also just a lot of self-study and growing these medicinal herbs. And my husband and I started farming together in 2008. We transformed our city yard into a little farm and sold at the farmers markets, and just falling in love with the plants and building healthy soils.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So then let's talk a little bit about what your farm looks like now. You do a fair amount of things there. You do farming, you do the herbals, you do education as well. What does the actual property look like, and what does the farming operation look like?
Sure. So we're land by hand. We don't have a tractor. We do everything with a broad fork and some hose and digging fork and hard rakes. My husband does a lot of the real hard earth moving, and I do a lot of the planting, transplanting, watering, and weeding. And so we're on 10 acres, mostly wooded, 2 acres open, and we're doing a lot of agroforestry. We're growing fruits, vegetables, flowers, and herbs, very compact planting and maximizing bed per square feet, and really just squeezing in anything that we possibly can. We are in the process of transitioning out of vegetable farming and into the more, agroforestry and growing medicinal herbs. Our bodies are begging us to do the switch.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about the agroforestry side of things. Where are you focused there?
Sure. So right now we have a little mushroom grove, and we just got to be a part of the Botanical Sanctuary Network. So we're a registered botanical sanctuary. So we're going to be integrating a lot of the at-risk plants like the cohosh and ginseng and golden seal. But we're also going to be implementing more pawpaws and persimmons and understory trees, dogwoods and redbuds into our kind of restoring the woodland behind our house, and just adding in a lot of at-risk and really making it viable for spring ephemerals and creating more cultivated ecologies throughout the woodland area where we are. But then also a lot of it is centered around education. So we'll be doing maple syruping workshops, which we have done in the past, but not a lot at our property. We only have a few maples. We'll be doing mushroom inoculation workshops, just a lot more farm dinners and things that add value to the experience of agritourism. And so it's kind of we'll see how it goes.
Yeah. Now what part of the state are you in Illinois?
We're in Western Illinois, pretty close to St. Louis.
Okay. All right. So right across the river there then.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very cool. So then that would be your main market. People would be coming from St. Louis area.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. And then how do you incorporate so you've got the agroforestry going on, you got the workshops. How do you market all of this together?
I'm still figuring it out. So we used to run the Resilient Living workshop series, and that's just a mouthful. So we have recently rebranded to Flourish Folk School. And so hopefully that will be, more encompassing of what we do. And so we're going to not only do the same workshops we have been doing on gardening, composting, mushroom inoculation, all of the on the farm basics, but also bringing in experts in cob building and some, metalsmith folks and some candle makers, and just bringing in kind of the old traditional arts and things that you don't really see much of anymore. So we're hoping to, in terms of it's definitely not taught in schools, or it's kind of a lost arts things that are lost arts. We want to bring more of that to the farm, to this area.
So a general aspect of being more resilient and just, and I think the last 2 years we learned there's so many supply chain issues and not being able to get things. And so if you did know how to do those things yourselves, you were a lot safer and be able to have more.
Right. So one of the things we'd love to do is have like a survival skills day where we teach people how to forge their own knife and just with a fire, just with a steel blade or steel piece of something that you can find, like a steel nail or something, and forge your own knife using just a fire pit and a hammer. And so just simple survival skills as well. I think that's so important.
Now, talk a little bit about the herbalism side. Is that something where you're doing active education on what folks can do with herbs? Do you sell any herbs yet, or is that something that you're moving into?
Yeah, so in 2019, my friend Alex and I co-founded the Tandem Flourish School of Botanicals. So we've had at least a dozen programs so far. teaching people how to grow medicinal herbs. We have a homegrown apothecary program, as well as a herbal foundations program. And both of those programs are very much geared toward stocking your own home apothecary, learning the basics of herbalism, the introduction to the herbal actions. And so our students leave the program with a better understanding of herbalism and the contraindications associated with specific herbs, and just getting to know each herb, especially seeing it grow here on the farm. They get a lot of cuttings and plants and fresh herbs and dried herbs, and they're able to make at least a dozen herbal preparations throughout the program. So that's been really amazing. And we absolutely love hosting folks out here to teach them about herbalism. So that's been probably the most profound part of this last several years, is seeing that connection between plants and people. And I mean, you know, as an educator, that it's such a beauty to watch people form deeper connections to farming or plants or the natural world.
Absolutely. Now, you used a word in there, and I don't know if I can redo it, like right at the beginning, reactions or something like that. It wasn't reactions. It was another word.
Contraindications?
Yes, thank you. So share a little bit more about that. And it's not a word that's common in the English language.
Sure. So a contraindication in terms of using an herb, sometimes people are allergic to the Asteraceae family, like sunflower family, which has dandelions, echinacea. So if someone was allergic to that plant family, it would be contraindicated for them to take that herb as a healing remedy. Or if someone was on blood thinners, it would be contraindicated to take specific herbs for specific pharmaceuticals. So we go through a kind of a basic rundown of herbs and the interactions with medicine. That's more of a pharmacology or a naturopathic doctor realm, but we touch the basics of it.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think it's important for folks to know that, you just can't take all the herbs and that they're all going to help you. It's something you need to do slowly, just like you would anything that's going to change your body of any way.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So what has been some of the surprises that have come along the way of running this herbal school?
Sure. Actually, it's just been wonderful. Yeah. I absolutely love herbal education and just witnessing people's reactions when they learn about specific herbs. There's really been only beautiful surprises.
Okay. Talk a little bit about the different books you've written.
Sure. The first one was Grow, Create, Inspire, and it's kind of more of an anecdotal book of falling in love with farming and how you're constantly inspired once you start the process of farming and growing and creating value-added products and different herbal remedies from everything that you grow, and then inspiring. The inspiration is cyclical. So once you start and you share these things, whether it be through social media or just word of mouth, people get inspired and they really want to grow their own food and medicine in their own backyards. And so that one, and then there's Worms at Work, which is all about vermicomposting and composting. And then Your Edible Yard kind of delves into edible landscaping and gives a lot of really amazing plants to work with, not only in edible landscaping, but transforming your yard into an edible oasis.
Talk to us a little bit about the Worms book. What came out of, what caused you to write that book?
I was giving a presentation at the Mother Earth News Fair, and I was approached by the publisher. So and they're like, would you like to write a book about this? And I said, yes. So that's kind of where it came from. But we had been running multiple vermicompost bins at La Vista at the farm. We ran a CSA for 7 years here in Godfrey, and it was a 250 member CSA, and it was very wonderful. And we had most of the members who were the Alton Godfrey pickup location, they would drop off their compost into our vermicompost bins. So we had a very thriving vermicompost situation going on. So that kind of had been, just we had a lot of photos and documentation of the different bins that we were running.
So the book is kind of a discussion of all that, how you made that work. And I think the especially cool thing is having the members bring their compost and then how you worked with that.
Yes, and the land was on 280 acres, so we had access to a lot of fallen pine needles and fallen leaves and grass clippings. They mowed a lot of the areas, so we would just go around and collect a lot of the greens and browns and add them to the multiple bins. And windrows. We had several windrows going as well.
So talk a little bit about kind of like how you and your husband split tasks. I know you said you do more of the grunt work out there, turning the beds and stuff. You do more of the weeding, that sort of thing. What other areas do you like focus on, and he does specific areas?
Sure. So the way it's worked is that he actually works off the farm as well. He works full-time for Rustic Roots Sanctuary in Spanish Lake, and it's a nonprofit farm. So he's their farm manager. So he works 3 long days a week and then is home 4 days a week. And so he's able to get a lot done on the days that he's home. And we try to take a little bit of time to rest and recuperate. We're learning, it's taken us 10 plus years to learn that rest is so important. And sleep as well. But so he does a lot of the bed work. He does a lot of the clearing of invasive species. We have 4 goats that are they're castrated males, so they help with the land clearing. He does a lot of the goat fencing, and then I do the marketing and the website and the design and planting, harvesting, weeding, watering. And I was doing the farmer's market also. He's not really a fan of doing the farmer's market, so I was doing the Tower Grove Farmer's Market every Saturday as well.
Gotcha. What would you say is the most rewarding part of what you do?
Honestly, it's building a legacy for our children. For the longest time, we didn't own our farm, we were renting. And this past year, we got an FSA loan and we're able to actually get it under our names. So that feels amazing to be able to finally, after all of this decade plus of hard work, that we're able to start building for our children's future and setting aside little tiny, acorns here and there so that they can have a better life.
Yeah. Now talk a little bit about the kids. I know that they're really involved in the farm. How do you make sure to intentionally include them while also making them not feel like it's drudgery?
The question of the day, huh? Iris, my daughter, she's 11, and she can name all of the medicinal herbs we grow here. She can name all of the wild edibles, and I've been really working with her on learning these. Kyan is a very strong, hard worker. Kyan is my son, he's 17, but he also has a full-time, he works full-time in a program called Youth Build. So he's learning carpentry while getting his GED. So his time is a little more limited. So, but when I do need help, he's great at, harvesting or carrying heavy stuff and helping load. He comes to the farmer's market with me and really helps set up, and they know the farmer's market set up. They could probably do it without me. It's really nice to,
Yeah. So have they had specific like micro enterprises that they've wanted to focus on? And have you done any of that with them?
Yeah, Kyan is an artist, and so he does he's done a couple of murals by himself. He does art prints. He does a lot of Marvel fan art. So definitely not connected to the farming world, but I like to encourage them to really be autonomous in their passions and their creativity and what drives them as humans. It's important to let them have their choices too, but he makes incredible art. And so he hasn't really wanted any part of the farm business aspect, but he's really good at creating. He did some of the illustrations for the Worms at Work book, so that was really sweet.
Oh, fun.
And then Iris, she is now developing her own line of body care products. So like lotions and salves and face serums and perfumes, all made with natural ingredients, of course. And she makes chapsticks, and she has her own little logo and her brand. So that's been really neat to help her develop that. And she's only 11, so she's very savvy.
Mhm. That's awesome. Now, with the folk school, you have a number of different classes. I mean, I think you've got what, 10 listed here, different ones. Which one seems to be the most popular for you?
The herbal anything that we do with herbal medicine, I think because I've established myself as an herbalist in the community, and have been teaching herbalism classes around this area for so long that that one is the one that I enjoy doing most, and that seems to be the most popular. When we have done a full day intensive of transforming your yard into an edible oasis, that one has been very successful as well. We're trying to figure out ways to market them to where it just seems fun and like you're spending a day on the farm and getting an experience out of it as well. So we're still trying to figure out the rest of them. We've had some success with the gardening ones, especially if it's a full day workshop and lunch is included. So
yeah, people love to eat.
And then the other ones, I do a lot of classes at libraries. So those have always been successful. I usually get about 40 people in the audience when I do any of those at the local libraries. And I'll travel like up to an hour and a half away to do workshops at local libraries.
And so is that something where you co-promote with them as they kind of push it to their people and you do it as well?
Yeah, it's mainly them. And they draw a big crowd with a lot of it. Every library workshop that I've done has been a huge success. So that's another one. And then I teach at the Mother Earth News fairs, which has been really wonderful.
So with the libraries, because that's definitely something that I haven't thought a lot about. Is that something where you charge a per person, or is it you charge the library and they just market it as free because they're just trying to do a public service?
I'm pretty sure they do it for free, and then they just pay me a small stipend. So it's not very lucrative, but it helps to get my name out there a little bit more with then people who come to the library classes often will buy a book or go onto our website and purchase some things. But also give great feedback too. So it helps.
Yeah, it's good for basically market research and marketing as well, just to build the people who know you.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah. So then with Mother Earth News, is that something where you teach something very specific there, or is it more up to like what they're looking for?
I've done a number of programs, and most of them are related to the books that I've written because they sell my books at the bookstore there. So when the book Your Edible Yard came out, I did the talk called Your Edible Yard and then had a book signing after, and then same with the Worms at Work. And then I also do a homegrown apothecary program at the Mother Earth News fairs. So that's been wonderful. I absolutely love working with Mother Earth News.
Joining me today is Stan from Steward, a mission-driven financial partner for farms across the U.S. Dan, talk to us a little bit about regenerative food value chain. How do you connect all the pieces?
When I'm thinking value chain, it's all the steps that it takes from producing to processing to end sales and the end outlet. And that's how people get connected to regional food systems. Some come as consumers through the farmers market and restaurant, and then down to the farm. And then farmers see it the other way as they're trying to get their product to market, and they need to get it through processing and find an outlet for it. So when we're trying to restore ecosystems at a watershed level, you really need to build all the mechanisms of that regional food system to link. And that's where we're putting a lot of resources, which is not just financing producers. That's where we began, funding producers, helping them grow, but then also funding processing infrastructure, funding the last sale kind of end sales outlets, and realizing that you have to connect all the dots. They all have to be in sync. They all have to be growing together to be successful. And you can only have a truly dynamic regional sustainable food system with all of them in sync.
And talk to us a little bit about, you are actually working with a restaurant now to kind of fund some of their expansions and changes. Talk to us a little bit about why that restaurant's kind of, near to your heart and what you're doing with them.
So we just, that was the most recent project we funded, a $200,000 loan to a restaurant called Woodbury Kitchen. The chef of Woodbury Kitchen, Spike Jurdy, he's a James Beard Award winner in Baltimore. He was the person who originally introduced me to regional cuisine in Chesapeake Bay, where I was from, connected me with producers he was supporting. And it was in those conversations with producers about their lack of access to capital that the idea for Steward came. And so the past decade, I've spent building the platform, building Steward business, bringing farmers online, bringing the funding online. And as we've slowly gone from producers to processing, now to sales outlets, we're coming back to fund the reopening of his business, which is a tavern and restaurant and event space as well, and showing that you can have all of these elements connected in people's minds, that if you're funding all of them together, you're really supporting the entire food system. And Woodbury Kitchen in particular has had $20 million of purchases direct from farmers since opening 15 years ago. And that's real money moving through the economy. That's real sales for farmers. That makes a big difference. And what I'm excited about at Steward is the flexibility that we have to go across all the segments that are needed in a food system, and then tell our audience of funders and explain to people why they're all important and how to think of them as one piece of a much broader food system.
Absolutely. If you're looking for a non-traditional, mission-driven financial partner who understands the business of regenerative agriculture, reach out to GoSteward.com today.
What would you say for someone who's looking to get into herbalism? What is what kind of advice would you have for them?
Sure. I would say just get some basic books on herbalism. Rosemary Gladstar has amazing books out on herbalism. There's many herbal training programs that are available now. I would just look at the reviews on them. I'm going to launch an online herbal education program here in the next year. And so hopefully, I can just keep my passions thriving with all of the herbalism content that I'm creating. So.
For those who want to, let's say they're already growing herbs, but they want to start, formulating things, what are things they need to stay aware of?
Sure. So there's a number of amazing medicinal herbs that you can grow in a number of different, zones or regions. And so I'd say start with, maybe 10 medicinal herbs that you're curious about, and just get a few plants of each, or start them from seed. Some of my favorites are chamomile, calendula, yarrow, mullein, lavender, passion flower. I really enjoy the Missouri natives as well. So we're in Illinois, but a lot of the we're neighboring Missouri, so I go for a lot of the Missouri natives. Echinacea and Monarda fistulosa, like the bee balm, really amazing. Goldenrod. There's just so many phenomenal medicinal plants.
Now, something about echinacea. Are all the different echinaceas, are they all medicinal, or are some of the decorative ones not as powerful?
So I would not, I always use true natives and true medicinals. So for instance, Echinacea purpurea is one of the true medicinals. You might be able to get like an orange coneflower or a hot pink coneflower that's a cultivar from the garden store, but that's not going to be the same medicine as Echinacea purpurea or angustifolia. So I mentioned earlier that we are a part of the Botanical Sanctuary Network. So we just established as a botanical sanctuary, meaning that we're going to be growing, and we have been growing, a lot of at-risk plants. So Echinacea angustifolia is actually an at-risk plant. On the United Plant Savers website, you can read more about that. But it's an at-risk plant, meaning that it's been over-harvested and not replenished. And so I like to encourage people to create their own cultivated ecologies and really put a focus on things that are at risk, like Echinacea angustifolia. Purpurea is, both of them are whole plant medicine. So you can tincture the whole plant or make a tea from the whole plant. the angustifolia has the thick, fleshy roots, whereas the purpurea has spindly, thin, hair-like roots. Some of them will be a little bit thicker, but I like to encourage people to grow both and grow many and multiples. If you plan to harvest root medicine, I would say at least grow 12 so that you can harvest one and keep the rest for wildlife and just to establish the species more.
Are there difference in the healing properties of the two?
I use them interchangeably. The Echinacea angustifolia is mainly grown for its roots, the thick fleshy roots, but both of them you can make tea from or tincture.
Gotcha. Okay, gotcha. That makes sense. So the purpurea is that's more of just for the tops.
Yeah, but you can use. I just dug lots of purpurea. I grow about 150 Echinacea purpurea. So I dug about 10 this year for the roots and just dried them to have their root medicine. And some of them had pretty decent sized roots, but they're mainly hair-like roots.
Yeah. That makes a big difference if you're trying to make tinctures and all that, just the volume of root mass.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, one of the things I would think about it for folks that are doing this is, do you ever caution folks to be careful if they're doing their backyard, depending on what the history of the yard might be, because they're basically pulling nutrients into those plants, which then they're going to be taking?
Yes. So of course, if you're in a city or urban area, I would definitely recommend getting a heavy metals soils test or soil test to see if there's any toxins or lead or anything like that in the yard. But if you are have been in production of really growing healthy soils for the last several years, and you have really rich, healthy soils, you can, put a lot of comfrey in your yard so that you can do the chop and drop method where you're building. If you pull out anything that takes a lot of nutrients out of the soil, you could just replenish it right away with some comfrey or maybe some biochar, or just keep feeding your soil. And there are actually plants that you can grow. For instance, sunflowers. I've read some studies where they actually help repair the soil and remove heavy metals and toxins out. And there's also work being done with mycoremediation and bioremediation, where you can actually use plant matter and mushroom matter to fix the soils, essentially.
Absolutely. Do you have a favorite herb?
Oh, I'm really in love with passion flower.
Okay.
And St. John's wort, I would say.
All right. And what is your favorite way to use passion flower?
Passion flower tea, for the most part, or you can do a tincture, but the tea is just a gentle nervine. It helps with stress relief and anxiety, and it helps you fall asleep much easier.
So take it before bed.
Yes.
Okay, very cool. All right, one final question for you, because I am diving into the whole herbalism world myself. Feel like a complete newbie, because I am. For extraction, do you have a specific oil that you like better? Like, I know olive oil, I've been using that, but then I found out that olive oil is not super great for skin.
Yeah, I use sunflower oil and grapeseed oil.
Okay, so you do like sunflower, because that's what I was going to go to, because I think I can try to find some like regionally produced at least.
Yes, and the grapeseed oil is really good and it's hydrating. I have in the past used olive oils and they seem to be fine. I've never had anyone tell me that they've broken out or anything like that. So I always include a little bit of olive oil in my preparations as well. But sunflower and grapeseed oil. Jojoba is the best, but it's very expensive. So
yes, I have seen that.
But grapeseed oil is actually much cheaper than olive oil, and it's really wonderful for the skin.
Okay, I'll check that out too. Yeah, one of the things we're focusing on is trying to produce things that are as regionally sourced as possible. So, obviously olive oil is either California or Italy. Well, as let's say a sunflower oil could actually be grown in the next town over, because you can grow sunflowers really near us. Although then having to get that, extracted and all of that is kind of a small nightmare.
Yes.
Because we've just lost that capacity in the US. Well, I think probably there's just been so much consolidation.
Yeah, I know there is a sunflower oil producer with a giant seed press or seed oil press and or press for seeds. Because Bulrush restaurant uses locally or regionally sourced sunflower oil. So I know there's one
Okay,
in
what's the
the
name of that
Midwest.
restaurant?
Bulrush, Bulrush. It's Ozark cuisine, so they focus on a very small radius of what they
Yes.
source. We sell to them a lot of wild foraged items, and
Okay,
it's also
okay. So I might be able to reach out to them and ask them for their sunflower oil source.
yes.
Okay, I will do that. Yeah, I'm just, yeah, we're doing fire ciders now, and we're producing about 95% of what's in the bottle. So,
Wonderful.
yeah, everything from the horseradish to obviously the ginger and the turmeric and the garlic and the onions and the all the herbs. We're struggling with the peppercorns and the lemons.
Yeah. Well, there is the trifoliate orange that
I
grows.
know. Yes, I've been looking into that. I am going to go visit in 2 weeks a grower in, I think he's in Tennessee, who's growing it, to
Wonderful.
learn more about it. But yeah, and then if maybe we just have to put one of those, underground greenhouses in to grow regular limes or lemons.
There you go.
So, yeah, the peppercorns, I think that's always going to be a hard nut to crack. So,
Yeah.
but,
Well,
all right,
wonderful. That's amazing. And you make your apple cider vinegar too?
well, we don't make it yet. We are sourcing it from a farm. The next year we'll be sourcing from a farm about an hour away. Unfortunately, they're not certified organic. They will be, super low spray. He tries his hardest to do as low spray as possible. In Ohio, it's very hard to do no spray apples.
Okay.
But there is an opportunity maybe in 2 years of us being able to buy a local orchard. And so
Wow.
if that happens, then yes, we would be doing our own apple cider vinegar as well.
That's
So,
amazing.
yeah, a lot of people are going to be like, why would you take perfectly good apples and turn them into vinegar? And I'm like, well, because I've got fire cider and that's way more profitable. So,
And do you sell that at the farmer's market or online?
yeah, so we just started a new site called Farmstead Wellness. And we actually just launched an ambassador program too for that, because our biggest growth, I think, is going to be online. My wife really wants to offer a full range of wellness things on there. So like, she uses activated charcoal for our kids, and she uses, these different things. And it's very specific vitamin C. So she wants to offer those things because, again, a lot of people come on and they're looking for a quality supplement, and you have to source it from like all different spots. So she wants to create one central place that they can get like, a monthly delivery if they want, or something like that.
Oh, that's wonderful.
So
Congratulations.
yeah, thanks.
I can't make fire cider fast enough. It always sells out at the farmer's market. So it's really, I love doing it.
Yeah. We are hopefully brewing about 200 gallons this year. And then next year we'll scale significantly more after we make sure that the funnel's proven. And then we start going after like the bigger influencers, I think, is the next step. So
I love that. That's wonderful.
yeah. But yeah, I really enjoy growing that. And the beauty of those crops is that it's way better of a lifestyle than growing greens and harvesting greens and selling spinach every single week.
Yes.
So
So are you kind of transitioning out of vegetable farming too?
If I could find a good farm manager that could run that side of the farm and at least break even, we would be all for that. Just say, all right, you have, this amount of your acreage, and, we just want you to produce. We have the sales outlets. We have a CSA and we have a on-farm store. So we can sell the product. It's just, I can't be spending my time supervising it. So, yeah, like we do a whole greenhouse of 5,400 square feet of tomatoes. That's a full-time job just to keep those all pruned and trellised and all of that. So I'd love to cut that back 50% or 80% and just focus on, these other crops. Yeah, I don't know. I wonder, I think it was Shire Fire Cider. That was the company that got in a lot of trouble. They sued everyone for the fire cider name. Is that the company that did?
Shire City Herbals.
Yeah.
Yes.
I wonder what scale they were at. I'm trying to figure out what scale they were at. I'm just trying to understand the marketplace. Like what is my potential? Is this like a $1 million business, $20 million business that I could eventually get to with this? I think, our goal is that it's regional, so that we would only be selling, Ohio and like the 4 or 5 states around us. But I think once we go with some influencers and stuff, it's going to go national. There's no way that we can, prevent that. Although I would love to build a business model where you have regional fire cider producers that you partner with.
Oh yeah.
So someone up to the Pacific Northwest, so they could use, local honeys from up there, and because I really feel that crop grown in your local area is going to be more, just more suited and the right nutrients for what you and your area need.
Totally, 100%. Yep.
So anyway, that's our vision. It's obviously at a very infinite stage right now, but we are selling a tremendous amount of fire cider. Let's just put it that way.
That's amazing.
So,
I work with Terry
yes.
at River Hills Harvest, and we are also trying to come up with a fire cider, elderberry fire cider, because he has a very successful online store and platform. So I developed some teas, herbal teas with him, and salves and different things, and we're gonna just keep the ball rolling with that.
Very cool. Hey, on that, I saw that salve you guys did. Is that so that's elderberry, just elderberry flowers, or do you have other parts of the elder in there too? Do you have actual elderberries in there?
No elderberries. We do an elder. Okay. Heather really, she's the designer. She really likes the look of the elderberries on the labels.
Yes, it's adorable label.
It's very, it's very confusing. I was like, well, why don't we draw some elderflowers and put it on there? She's like, no, people really have been liking this. So I'm like, okay, but it's very confusing because there's no elderberries in it. It's just elderflowers and a lot of other elderflowers and elderberry leaves. And a bunch of herbs that I grow here at my farm.
Oh, very cool. Now, I think you also put like an ancient, the ancient sap in there or pine resin.
Yeah, Terry has a friend who does ancient tree resins, and it's a sustainable process. He just harvests a little bit of the tree resin, and it keeps producing more and more. So it's not like a.
Gotcha. Okay, so I think I've read about how they actually harvest that. Do they drill it? Is that how they do? And they just drill a little bit, and then I forget how they do that.
I'm not sure actually. I haven't looked into it, but he was adamant about putting that in the salve, so I just went with it. It's apparently super good for the skin and is antiviral, antibacterial, antioxidant, has many medicinal properties to it.
Very cool. All right. Well, Crystal, I will let you go. And again, appreciate you for coming on.
All right. Thank you so much. Good luck with everything.
All right. Thank you. Yeah.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Steward is transforming agriculture by equipping regenerative farms and food systems with the capital they need to grow. As a mission-driven financial partner, Steward works closely with agriculture businesses to scale their operations, improve the health of their lands and waters, and bolster farm-to-regional food systems. To date, Steward has provided over $15 million in business loans to fund 75 unique projects backed by more than 1,500 participating lenders. Steward is proud to be a certified B Corp. Seek financing or support a loan campaign at gosteward.com. So there you have it, another episode in the books. So I'd love if you would hop on over to iTunes and leave us a rating and a review. Those mean everything to us. We love to hear what you're thinking. If you have a podcast guest that you can recommend, please pop on over to the Thriving Farmer Podcast website and leave us a review. That's thrivingfarmerpodcast.com.